Chapter 934, Sea of Immortal Material Remains. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Such an enormous goo formation required at least several months to be unraveled. It would require about a month just to pry an opening. Fang Yuan's hands moved very fast. Countless goo worms fluttered all around, unraveling the goo formation. At the same time, his ears quivered frequently. As he activated his investigative methods to the limit, the Yaksha Octopus King was already on its way. Time waits for no man. Strive for every second. This is it. Fang Yuan's eyes suddenly brightened as the air in front of him started emitting a hazy glow. And beyond the hazy glow, he saw a trace of the enormous goo formation. Although his sight was blurry, he could vaguely see the scenery inside the formation. Away, the Yaksha Octopus King had already returned. Time was up. He had to retreat. In this short amount of time, being able to peep into the scenery inside the goo formation was already the limits of Fang Yuan's ability. If Fang Yuan did not reach Grandmaster level in Wisdom Path, he would not have been able to do this. This was enough. Fang Yuan relaxed and immediately retreated. The ancient, desolate beast, Yaksha Octopus King, was moving like an underground subway train in the cave. The surrounding slippery black oil from Earth Trench allowed it to move like a fish in water. Fang Yuan had almost bumped into it. This Yaksha Octopus King returned to its place and gazed around first of all. It felt there was something off. When Fang Yuan analyzed the goo formation, many different kinds of auras were left behind. The wild beast's intuition made the Yaksha Octopus King feel something wrong. It frowned deeply, and more than 10 of its enormous and tough tentacles carried it nimbly as it patrolled around the nest. However, it could not discover anything missing even after a while the previous unknown auras already had begun dissipating. The Yaksha Octopus King only then slowly calmed down, lying down on its nest again. It was just that it did not sleep. Its eyes were slightly closed, but a small crack was opened. From time to time, its ears would quiver from the slightest breeze in the cave as it tried to listen to any unknown sounds. Fang Yuan's worries finally dissipated. He cautiously retreated, even retreating to the upper half of the octopus nest. This Yaksha Octopus King seemed to have the highest status as it had stayed behind to guard the nest. If it felt any strong danger, who is to say it might not call back the other Yaksha octopuses fighting outside? At that time, not to mention whether the Northern Plains immortal zombies would feel suspicious and be attracted to the disturbance, Fang Yuan's movements in the octopus nest would be extremely restricted. This place should be okay. After a while, Fang Yuan carefully selected an inconspicuous corner among the several underground burrows. He hesitated for a moment, but still decided to activate fixed immortal travel. Although that enormous goo formation was arranged by some predecessor, when Fang Yuan deciphered it earlier, he found out that it had become an unmanned formation and had been unmanaged for many years. The risk of rashly going in was not high. To find a method of reviving from the immortal zombie state, this was a risk he needed to take. After all, as time passed, Fang Yuan's predicament would become more dangerous. Who could say if the matter of him wrecking 88 Truyang building would be exposed at the next moment? At that time, the whole world would hunt him down. He would definitely not be able to protect Hu Immortal Blessed Land, and Starform Blessed Land would be his only base. In such a situation, the earlier he got rid of his immortal zombie body, the more beneficial it would be. After all, a living immortal aperture world could be brought with him, more safe and convenient than Hu Immortal Blessed Land or Starform Blessed Land. Moreover, living goo immortal apertures could produce immortal essence in set intervals of time, which was extremely helpful to Fang Yuan's financial situation and battle strength. The immortal goo was activated. Green light blossomed. The next moment, Fang Yuan disappeared from his place, appearing inside the giant goo formation. Just outside the goo formation was the Yaksha Octopus King, but because of the isolation effect of the goo formation, it was unaware of anything. I am finally in here. Fang Yuan was extremely vigilant. He quickly looked around him. This was indeed the place which he had inspected earlier. Rashly charging into a goo formation was very dangerous, and it was normal to be attacked by the goo formation. However, Fang Yuan did not suffer any attacks. This further proved that the goo formation was not managed by anyone. He exhaled a breath of relief, but was still extremely vigilant. Unmanned goo formations could still function. Perhaps the core of the goo formation had the will left behind by the goo Immortal. It could be like 88 True Yang Building, where Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had left behind his will. This was in giant formation using mainly space path methods, thus creating a special space. This huge space had a yellow sky and a ground paved with purple sand. The purple sand seemed to be extremely fertile, as dense amounts of vegetation covered Fang Yuan's site, like a tropical rainforest. Scribe grass, nutrient peaches, immortal beans, blood-tide flowers. With just a brief glance, Fang Yuan could make out dozens of immortal materials. Even a person as stoic as him was shocked. Although most of these immortal materials were rank 6 level, along with a few of rank 7, their quantity was truly shocking. These immortal materials come from 5 regions and are not limited to Earth Trench and Northern Plains. What background did the great expert immortal zombie that created this place have? To gather such an enormous scale of immortal materials, how much manpower and material resources would it require? Moreover, immortal materials were not grass growing along the sides of a road. The gathering of immortal materials often resulted in bloodshed and was tied together with fighting. If the gatherer's strength was not up to par, they simply would not be able to get the materials. There was also the 5 regions' regional walls. The stronger one was, the higher the cultivation of the goo immortal, the more difficult it would be for them to pass through a regional wall. Could it be? Fang Yuan's thoughts churned as he made a guess. He had thought this was a great expert immortal zombie inheritance, but now it seemed such huge handiwork could not be possibly achieved by one person. It would at least require an organization. And this organization must be huge. Because a small-sized organization with 2 or 3 goo immortals simply could not have such large assets and energy to spare. Looking over it again, there were countless immortal materials everywhere he looked. Such a sight caused Fang Yuan's heart to thump in excitement. Such enormous wealth is simply unimaginable. It is enough for me to attempt refining immortal goo dozens of times, even hundreds of times. Maybe in my previous life, Northern Plains Zombie Alliance was able to rise up because of these enormous cultivation resources, even suppressing Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance. This was almost like a warehouse, with so much immortal materials piled up. The total value was hard to estimate. Fang Yuan only knew this value was enormous, very enormous. If he had to accumulate this much with his current 2,000 immortal essence stones per month earnings, he might not be able to succeed even in 1,000 years. After all, he also had to calculate cultivation expenditures. As goo immortal's cultivation became higher, the calamities and tribulations would become more terrifying. But compared to these countless immortal materials, this enormous goo formation has even higher value. Fang Yuan's eyes twinkled. He had a huge ambition and was very experienced. As he came back to awareness, he realized the preciousness of this enormous goo formation. In this goo formation, the countless immortal materials from the 5 regions were able to exist mutually without interfering with each other. Fortunately, I did not rashly take down this goo formation. Otherwise, it would be too late for regret. With this goo formation, I could plant countless types of immortal materials. It is easier to use than an immortal aperture. Fang Yuan could not help but praise the great expert immortal zombie that arranged this. An immortal zombie's immortal aperture was already dead. This predecessor was able to arrange such a goo formation which replaced the use of immortal apertures to a certain extent. However, this goo formation has low defense and also can't be moved. It is far from being convenient and safe like immortal apertures. This purple sand seems to be rather strange. Fang Yuan bent down and grabbed a large amount of purple sand. The sand was extremely fine. Some flowed down the gaps in Fang Yuan's fingers and sprinkled down like fine grains of crystal. While falling down, they drifted haphazardly, while emitting fluorescent light. But what I want to find is the method of reviving. Where is it? Fang Yuan threw away the purple sand as he thought of his main objective. He was not in a hurry to gather the immortal materials and started to gently fly around, searching the area. Time gradually passed. The joyous look on Fang Yuan's face slowly disappeared as his feeling of unease intensified. Something is not right. He suddenly stopped and looked down at the endless immortal materials. After inspecting once more, he found what was wrong. It is too peaceful. There is not a trace of wind or sound. It is more quiet than even my dead aperture. There are also many other areas that feels fishy. Like the immortal beans, they grow in spring water, but are actually growing on the purple sand here. There are also the nutrient peaches, which are usually accompanied by snake-tail monkey groups. Every type of immortal material has a harsh living environment, but here there are only these immortal material plants, and there is not even an insect. Fang Yuan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He landed on the ground and tried to pick up a strand of scribe grass. The next moment, Fang Yuan's body shook. When the scribe grass was on the purple sand, it was safe and sound, but the moment Fang Yuan picked it up, it withered and turned into fine purple sand. And the sand was the same as the purple sand below Fang Yuan's feet. What is going on? Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes and tried to pick other immortal materials. The result was the same. The moment the immortal materials left the sand, they turned into purple sand. All of these immortal materials had a problem. They were unusable. Strange. The reason immortal materials are called immortal materials is because they contain plenty of Tao marks on them. When these immortal materials wither and turn into purple sand, their Tao marks should have been destroyed, but there is not even a slight disturbance from this. A chill emerged from the depths of Fang Yuan's heart. The immortal materials were in such a state. As for an immortal zombie body which contained Tao marks, could it be regarded as a type of immortal material? Would it also be absorbed into this enormous field of purple sand? Looking at this vast amount of immortal materials, flowers and trees, Fang Yuan felt like he was looking at the remains of corpses. From another perspective, this was a sea of immortal material remains. The unease inside him kept on intensifying. Fang Yuan immediately flew to the sky, maintaining some distance with the purple sand. He gazed at the sky. There is definitely something strange about this goo formation. It is probably not enough to just maintain distance from the purple sand. This change in immortal materials should definitely be related to the whole goo formation. Before I know of what's going on, it is better to quickly find the method to revive from the immortal zombie state and leave as soon as possible.